Hey everyone, it's Ryan Williams here. Well, we have a couple minutes to get loose before we start the podcast. I'm sorry, the webinar. Want to give everyone a couple minutes to get into the chat, and hope everyone's doing well. Welcome. I had a great response for this webinar because I had folks from Italy, from Ottawa, Canada, to LA, where I live, respond. So welcome everyone. If you want to talk in the chat browser, you can. I'll say something right now. Feel free to say where you're from in the chat browser and say a nice remark welcoming everyone here, because this is all about the community and the collaboration and building together. That's really the ethos of the influencer economy. Influence is something that you have through collaboration. And that's what I've realized is if you want to make a dent in the world and change things up to make yourself thrive and successful and build something you're proud of that actually can add value to others and help people, then ultimately that comes through collaboration and that comes through working together. So I'm fired up to share everything I've been studying and working in the last couple of years. I spoke at Google up in Mountain View, California. So say hello to everyone at Google that's watching that I met last week. I was really thrilled. It was a bucket list item in my geeky world to talk at Google. And so some of the themes I'll be scratching the surface on today are actually elements that I talk to a lot of technologists about at Google, because I think there's a lot to learn through launching a tech product like Google itself and all their products as well, and Silicon Valley products, Facebook, Twitter, and how they've launched their careers, and or how they launched their products. So I've imbued a lot of that into this PowerPoint and this opportunity. So let's make sure we got a couple people. So yeah, any questions here? We got Jessica Jean Armstrong from Waterloo, Ontario. Hello. She's excited to build stuff together. We have Dan Cornlescu from Cantata, Ontario. We have someone from Mountain View. And we have someone named the 4-week MBA from Gennaro, Italy, from World Lift. So yeah, thank you everyone. I'll type real quickly. So excited everyone's here. Oh, that's Trish. Trish Morley, who I met through my Google Talk, is up in Mountain View, where is Google headquarters. So welcome everyone. We'll give a couple more minutes for people to pile in, but I'm most likely going to start. So if there are any questions, anything you'd like me to answer, first come, first serve, you all leave it in the comments, whether it's the 4-week MBA. I love that name. Dan, Trish, Jessica, whomever. So love the global connection here. Welcome. And yeah, leave any comments. I'll be monitoring them throughout the process of this webinar. And I think we can get started. Let's do this. I'll do a quick screen share to show you the slides. So hopefully everyone can see that on their screen. And I'm going to fire this up to... Okay, here we go. So what we'll be speaking about today is how to collaborate with influencers, even if you're not an expert or you're not someone who has a platform, or even if you have a small customer base. Because ultimately, for influencers, it's all about who your influencers are. And your influencers are sometimes they're sales leads. They're people that can make introductions for your business. They could be the first client to validate your idea. They could be a YouTube creator that you want to make content with. They could be a podcast guest or host that you want to be a guest on. So it's all about identifying the right influencers and how to build a customer base off of that. And all my research and my work and my career is based on the influencer economy, which is how to launch your idea, share it with the world, and thrive in the digital age. We've entered a new economy that I've captured. So if you go to my website, influencereconomy.com, I have podcast archives of all the people I've interviewed for my book and for my research and for my business that you'll be hearing about today. And for those of you who don't know me, my background is I was a stand-up comedian in Washington, D.C. And I went through a very dark depression during my early 20s. If you looked at my bedroom when I was 22, I had beer cans and soda bottles all over my desk. I had kitchen plates stacked up in my dishwasher and my sink for weeks at a time, and my bed was a mess. I could barely breathe. And I did what most rational people would do. I turned to stand-up comedy. And if you think how that turned out and any advice for me to make it a better outcome, I'm open for ears. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts for how my comedy could have been better. But what I realized about dealing with rejection and putting myself out there and not being able to breathe is that I was able to not realize that I was going to be the best comedian in the world. I wasn't going to be Seinfeld or Amy Schumer or Chris Rock, but I was really good at marketing, and I pivoted my business around finding a problem in the market, playing the long game, and realizing I could host the shows, but also book the shows. So I was getting Comedy Central level guests in my venues around Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. And comedians were like, how do you do this? How can you market so well? And so I learned that influence matters, but you can often influence behind the scenes. And you need to pivot your work to find how you can influence and collaborate in the market. And you don't always have to be the star. And so I moved to California after my comedy career, when I dropped the mic, and with my girlfriend, is now my wife. And like I said, if you can have any advice for how I could have been funnier, I would love to know. But I worked at a company called Machinima.com. Has anyone heard of Machinima? It's a big YouTube network. We played games like Call of Duty and Minecraft. I didn't personally, I'm not a gamer, but I still marketed the company. And anyone here who's built a tech product knows how exciting it is to build something with a community. So we made all these YouTube videos of us playing the games, and Minecraft was one of them. So Minecraft sold for $2.5 billion to Microsoft. Who here has played Minecraft? Well, who here, better question, who here has a cousin or a niece or a nephew that has played Minecraft? Because ultimately Minecraft is a phenomenon, and Minecraft is actually something that I believe has changed the world for how you launch products, because we did the alpha, the beta, and the launch, and now it's on Xbox Live. And so Machinima, we built this great technology to help content creators monetize. So we have someone here that has actually played Minecraft. And welcome Christina from Rome, Italy, and everyone else who's just joined. But yeah, so you build with your community. Machinima, we sold to Warner Brothers for $100 million because we built this tech solution. It's so exciting to build tech to help people monetize and make money with content. And that's what we did. So I love the fact that we helped launch these video games. And so when I was researching all of the influencers in our network who were building YouTube videos to promote games like Minecraft and Call of Duty, influencer does not equal followers. In the comments, let me know if anyone agrees with this or disagrees, because an influencer is not someone that has a lot of followers. The word influencer has been stolen. It's been hijacked. It's been taken away. Marketers have branded people on Instagram. And I get really mad about this. So I hope I'm not yelling through the microphone. But they have taken the word away because you have a bunch of Instagram likes and impressions and followers. And people think that if you have followers, that you should make a lot of money. But that's not how it works. And I did the research to figure this out, which I'll get into in a minute. But a bunch of no talent zeros have taken the word influencer, and they've owned it because they're sexy in jeans, or they look good, or they have a following because they're hot in looking a certain way. So just getting in my background, I love the influencer economy because I've worked with all these venture-backed companies. One was acquired by Disney, one was Machinima, one was State.com. And I've studied influence for so long. And the influencers are not followers, but this is my definition of an influencer. It's someone who can create a movement around their idea through collaboration, community passion, and shared vision. Again, they're not these no talent zeros that get a bunch of Instagram likes because they're sexy. Influencers can change a small idea into a world-changing idea very quickly, seemingly overnight. And influence is gained through collaboration, often in a specific niche. So finding your niche to influence others through collaboration is crucial to connecting with influencers. And influence has nothing to do with vanity metrics like followers, likes, or impressions. And as Jessica Armstrong just said in the comments, that most people believe the number of followers means you have influence, But influence to her is someone who has the power to change someone's views with trust or expertise, which I couldn't have said any better. So I'd love to hear your comments about what you think an influencer is on this live stream page. Because ultimately, we have a superficial definition of influencer, and your influencer is about collaborating, working with others through the passion, a shared vision, and something that could be world-changing that is a small idea into big very quickly. So these are celebrities: Ryan Seacrest and Kim Kardashian. Everyone who's in Italy to Canada to California knows who these folks are. They are mascots. They are not influencers. They are celebrities with a broad base. I did a lot of research on influencers with startups to think if entrepreneurs should partner with influencers because they want to move the needle on social media. Because there's a big misnomer. You work with celebrities and they're famous and they'll tweet about your product and they'll drive sales. Who here has heard that before? You know, who here has heard that that celebrities are influencers? Yes, Kim Kardashian has a popular TV show. Yes, Ryan Seacrest has a very well-known radio show. He was on American Idol. These are cultural shape-shifting celebrities. They are so broad, they have no niche. You don't know what they stand for. And I've done the research to show you that these mascots are not influencers. Because there's the Kim Kardashian rule. A couple years ago, this is literally a slide that I gave to my founders of the startup. And I went into Kim Kardashian's Twitter links. And I saw that she did not move the needle. These vanity metrics of Twitter followers. She has 18 million followers. She shared a link 5 times on Twitter, and it drove 83,000 clicks. This is anyone here know what Bitly is? Bitly is a link shortening service, bit.ly, and I went into data to find out how she promotes her shows and how many people clicked on those links. She had a 0.5%, right? 0.46 conversion of the clicks per follower. That's worse than a banner ad. Like banner ads are 50% of a percent, right? So they're 0.5%. She's less than 0.5%. I hate banner ads. When's the last time you clicked on a banner ad and you were happy? Usually you go back, like on your browser or your phone because you don't want to click on a banner ad. They're the worst. So you may as well, if you have a club in Vegas or a new clothing line, you may as well just stop paying people to tweet about your product that are celebrities and just do a bunch of banner ads. And what's really fascinating about this slide, again, that I just showed my founders, I literally cut and pasted it for this presentation, is notice the decay over the content. So she has a 48-hour window where there's a big lift in her interactions. The majority of her clicks happen within the first 2 days. True influencers at Machinima, these people had smaller followings. So maybe they had 150,000 Twitter followers, or maybe they had 200,000 people on a YouTube channel, or maybe they had something that was valuable as an email list, you know, where they had hundreds of thousands of people. They, in aggregate, smaller groups of influencers move the needle more than celebrities, and their content is often more evergreen. It doesn't expire like Kim's. Kim gives you a big lift. It's like doing a media buy. Same with Seacrest. His Instagram followers, he gets an average of 1% of a like per Instagram follower. That's terrible. So when you want to analyze influence online on the web, you need to create new metrics and new analytics and thinking of it in a way that makes sense. And for me, the banner ad is the proof is in the pudding here with Kim Kardashian. So these are a couple testimonials of people that I worked with that I want to share very quickly to show you that I've actually applied these to bigger companies and bigger brands. Anyone here read the book called Hooked? It's called How to Build Habit-Forming Products with a guy named Nir Eyal. He's a phenomenal author. I recommend this if you're building a tech product, if you haven't read it. Anyone here read it? Feel free to leave a comment. But Neil turned to me because I helped him launch his podcast. We trended it on iTunes and had it become a number 11 tech podcast in a week. And then I worked with Ryan, my buddy right here, on Snoop Dogg's podcast. So I've applied these techniques to author launches, book launches, my own stories, my own podcast, my own consulting business, my own course that I've launched. So ultimately, it's all about the collaboration and adding value through true metrics, not through vanity metrics. So I had my influencer base, and I've worked with, on my podcast, I've had guests like Seth Godin, Brad Feld, Derek Sivers, all these people I looked up to because I was able to target my niche. Adam Grant, who wrote this book, Give and Take, Near, Willie Guys of the Today Show. I targeted a niche, went out after it, and then collaborated with these influencers. And now I've been in Inc. Magazine, HuffPost. I've created my own media around it. Again, in my niche, because I'm a business author, a business writer, a businessman, and a business person. So ultimately, the influencers we're talking about today are going to be very specific to your industry, but these are the examples of the folks that I collaborated with to help launch all my products and business. So you are in the right place if you build products that grow your customer base, you try launching your business and need to build that base of customers, you have a big vision, you haven't executed, you're a newbie, or you're a seasoned pro looking to increase revenues, and you want to put in the work, most importantly, and learn the launch framework to collaborate with your team to launch your product, because ultimately we will reach influencers after this webinar today. And I would love to hear from you all putting these actions into lessons that you can learn from, so then you can apply it. Because this is a technique that I've derived based on my own experiences with the influencer economy for how to launch your idea, collaborate with the world, and thrive in the digital age. And if you feel like you want to tweet during this webinar, which people do, that is my Twitter tag. And I will follow you back as well, and I will retweet anything using the hashtag IEBook, hashtag IEBook. So Seth Godin has made a dent in the world, and I interviewed him on my podcast. And this tribe that he talks about really resonates with the influencer economy. And Seth, if you Google Seth in 20 years, he will be an influencer. These Instagrammers that have a lot of likes and followers because they're sexy in blue jeans are not going to be in Google indexed. They are going to be leading with influence, these people like Seth Godin, not the superficial social media influencers. So Seth says a tribe is a group of people connected to one another, connected to a leader, connected to an idea. For millions of years, humans have been part of one tribe or another. A group needs only two things to be a tribe: a shared interest and a way to communicate. So think about that when you want to collaborate with your influencers. Think about a shared interest, something that happens in your niche, and a way to communicate with these people through social media, through email, through a podcast, through a platform, or through a channel. So this is my book chapters in Emoji. Funny, when I actually made this slide a couple years ago, no one was really using Emoji that was over like my parents' age. And now my parents use Emoji all the time. So I originally made this slide to connect with younger people in the crowd, but now everyone uses Emoji. So these are the principles in the book that are a series of steps to launch, collaborate, and thrive in the digital age. So the first principle is you got to step up with a big vision. You have to craft a big vision. No one follows you with influence if you have a small idea. Yes, small ideas matter because you have to execute on that big vision. So for my work, my podcast that I launched, Stories from the Influencer Economy, was a way for me to have a small project. But the big vision was I'm writing this book about influencers. So people want to be a part of it. Adam Grant, Seth Godin, they thought it was a big idea. So I had that big vision. And step number two is you pick a platform. So you need to pick a channel to communicate with the influencers. So for me, that was that podcast. And I validated the podcast in a way that I was a comedian. I wanted to connect with audiences. So I love that. That was the first reason why the platform was right for me. The second was I believed that I had really good guests as people to interview because I was at Machinima early. And ultimately, the people who are on the podcast are really important for me. And finally, I needed research and development for the book. So ultimately, the platform of the podcast, I always recommend if you pick your platform, whether it's an online course, an email list, a tech product, an info product, you need to pick a platform that connects you with the influencers that are in your industry. Then you have to book your own gigs, deal with rejection. I actually invented this emoji. There's no Jay-Z emoji. The suitcase emoji was easy for the picking a platform because I felt like you got to go places with your platform. But Jay-Z, he's dealt with rejection. He's booked his own gigs. You got to figure out how to barter because we're in a bartering economy, right? We're sharing and exchanging ideas continually. And that's the value you want to give to other people. So book your own gigs. Number 4 is you got to adopt technology early. Find tech as a solution. Find tech as a solution, an antidote for a problem that you're solving. Create tech, create opportunities that can solve people's problems. 5, you got to strive for authenticity. I hate this word and I love this word. Who here likes the word authentic? It's a very much an advertising word now. It's lost some meaning, but it really means how can you be comfortable in your own skin? Like, and I'll ask people in the chat, like, what is your definition of authenticity? My definition is how to strive for the presentation froze. Is it freezing for anyone else? Try refreshing. Okay. Looks like it's working for me. Maybe refresh it. Sorry, Dan. No, it doesn't work for you either. Okay, now it's working for Dan. Okay, so maybe it just froze for a second. Sorry about that, folks. So yeah, what is your definition of authenticity? Please leave a comment since we're all commenting. And what is your definition of authentic? Because I have an authentic definition of this word, right? Because it's lost meaning, it's lost surging, it's lost ideas, because it's a hackneyed word almost. But I define authenticity as something you can see it only when you know it. And there's this great Supreme Court case many years ago about pornography, and I promise I do not talk about pornography at all again in this PowerPoint. But Potter Stewart said something really profound, which was, pornography when you see it. And that's what authenticity is to me. You know it when you see it. When someone has a strong message and is comfortable in their own skin. Jessica said, authentic means real or unique. So anyone else have other definitions? I totally agree. And real or unique. So yeah, so that's the definition of the word for me. 6, collaborate, which is the thesis for all this, which you all know. 7 step is capture lightning in a bottle. Do you pivot on your idea because you haven't captured that lightning? Or do you double down because you have that customer base and you can scale this idea and kick ass at it? Number 8, you got to meet people in real life. You got to go to conferences. You got to plan events. You got to do influencer networks. Building your network is often through helping other people, going to conferences, and meeting people in real life. So Trish just told me that authenticity does not contradict reality. That's true. You got to be true to yourself. And that's where authenticity really does. There's something about being your own personality right now and how that's your strongest competitive edge. And just on a side note with Trish's comment, it's like, I could have started this whole webinar and go right into the business, but I told you about my depression and my stand-up comedy. And partially because I like to share and help others who've gone through tough times. But more importantly, for the purpose of this business is, this is me. This is what you're getting. And this is the work I've done. And I feel like that is more real than coming in here and telling you how much money I've made for, billions of, or not billions, but like I've made a company sell for $100 million. Like that doesn't ring authentic for me. It may for someone else, but not for what I'm trying to share. So getting back into the emojis, opening doors for others. You have to help others. You have to be a giver. You can't be a taker. You have to help. You need to make introductions. I know friends that have made, they make a goal. I'm going to make 2 introductions a week to help connect other people. Because when you make introductions for others, it comes back to you in spades. There's no ROI. You can't define your network. But if you help, someone make $100,000, like they're going to remember that. And you're part of their trust network. And trust is so important in the modern digital economy. And finally, you have to give people emotional ownership. Number 10, I love this emoji. You have to make the money through being psychologically invested in the other people who are your customers. And you have to let them collaborate with you and build with the community so they feel like they're psychologically connected with your product. And what I realized in my book marketing was, if you have people help you along the way, then there's 2 things. One is they make your product better. They give you feedback in your alpha and your beta. But more importantly, they become your marketers and they're your salespeople because they helped you make it. And there's an investment. We all have those friends that find that band they love right before they become popular, like the Strokes, or a band that's really trendy. Like your friends are like, I found that band before you did, right? Of Monsters of Men, or those are the people you want to give the ownership to early on to make them feel part of it. So Jessica just said, Trish, I really like that there's something about honesty that signals authenticity. And what I'm saying is, this is me, right? So I do like that. Authenticity does not contradict reality. So moving on, there's 3 types of collaboration styles for people who want to get influence. And this is really how you can segment your audience for figuring out your right influencers. You may not know your influencers right away. We're going to try to find that today, because we'll have actions throughout the PowerPoint. But really, we want to have the right influencers, and your influencers could change because your product could change and your business could change. So the collaborators, that's the first group. This is about 10% of your audience. These are the people that are your tech early adopters. They're what I call the regulars. If you owned a bar and every Friday you had the same people at your happy hour, and they would bring their friends and their friends would bring their friends, or the people that came to my comedy shows every month or every week, the regulars, the people that show up. These are your early ambassadors, your early adopters, the techies. There's a guy named Chris Dixon, who maybe Trish knows of because she lives in Palo Alto. But Chris Dixon is someone who is a tech blogger and venture capitalist. He wrote about techies versus normals, right? And the techies are the early adopters. They're like the 10 percenters that are going to validate your product. But if you don't belong your early adopters, and you're never going to get critical mass. So these are the collaborators. These people you give your pilot program to. You give a free product offering. You give your alpha, your beta. You want that feedback to prove your concept. So once we get through the collaborators that we've validated our work, then we go to the influencers. This is a sequence. We can't just pitch influencers and burn bridges from day one. So your influencers are your industry leaders, the authorities, the people that give you social proof, and the lead generators, people that can open doors and go like gangbusters to help you turbocharge your business. And everyone's influencers are different based on their niche. Even the types of influencers. If you're a startup founder looking for money from a venture capitalist, those are your influencers. If you're building a product for content creators on YouTube, those are your influencers. If you're writing a book on collaboration influence, then you have business authors. Those were my influencers. The business authors, those were my true influencers, the people I looked up to. And finally, the normals. These are the critical mass. These are the buyers, the mass market, the consumers. They're the people that don't care about being early adopters or your collaborators. They don't necessarily even care that the influencers use it. They may realize they found the product through an influencer, but they don't necessarily say, oh my God, I love this product because, this machinima gamer used it. It's so organic. They don't understand and they don't care. They just want your book on Amazon. They want your app in the iTunes store. They want you to have your course fully baked when they take it. They don't want to be in your beta program. So ultimately, it's all about the collaborators. Then you reach out the influencers, and then you reach the normals. And that's when you're scaling and you're going up, 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 up. How's everyone doing? Want to make sure that we're all engaged here, because we're going to get into a couple steps here that are going to be key principles from the book, and then also actions for everyone to take. So if you want to get a notepad or piece of paper or a journal and a pen, I recommend that. It's easier than actually writing on your laptop while you're taking notes here. So this is my father-in-law. Who here is married? Who here has a significant other and a father-in-law, especially being married? So my father-in-law, we agree on a lot of stuff. We disagree on a lot of stuff. He has no idea what I do for a living. He's like, what's this YouTube network machinima? Why is it valued at $200 million? There's no revenues. He's a pragmatic businessman. He has a boiler repair company in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I asked him what he thought about platforms. And he's like, actually, he had a very profound answer. He said, people who give something they can't get somewhere else quite the same way are influencers with a platform. His advice to me was develop a skill or knowledge that most people don't have, and then share that with them. Find that edge and solve your pain points. Solve your pain points for others and then teach them. This is how you solve your pain point. So the example he gave me was that his boiler business gets a lot of calls. So someone from Atlanta calls him up and says, hey, Joe, I have this boiler. I work at this plant, this big company, and I have these problems. So Joe gives him about 25 minutes of free advice, just enough for them to be dangerous, but not enough for them to do the job. So they fix it themselves. They hire a cheaper alternative. They cut some corners. Then a week later, sure enough, the guy in Atlanta, hey, Joe, remember me? How soon can you be down here? We actually made the problem worse. Or Joe, we need your help. Or Joe, your expertise really helped us get started, but now we're going to the next level. So the boiler repair company is no different than any other business in the world. You got to give something to people they can't get anywhere else in quite the same way. You have to develop knowledge or skill that most people don't have, share it with them, and solve pain points. Solve a bigger problem. With my book, The Influencer Economy, I wanted to share and help others, guiding them on a journey to learn how to be an influencer, connect with influential people, and collaborate with others. So now we're going to have some actions here. What I recommend with people to build a platform or launch their product is you need to pick a launch date immediately. Pick a date. 30 days from now is often a great starting point, because if you don't start launching, you're never going to launch. Your idea is never going to be real. If your business is already in the market, let's relaunch your product, right? To find those influencers. The internet has a short memory. So if your product does one thing one day and you pivot the positioning and you rebrand it, like I renamed my podcast, The Influencer Economy, right? Great name for a book, bad name for a podcast. Then I relaunched it to Stories from the Influencer Economy. Same podcast feed, same content, same show. And then I realized I would go to conferences and people couldn't type influencer with their fingers, their little chicken fingers, into their iPhone. And so I ultimately call it the Rhino Lab, RYNO, Stories from the Influencer Economy. So now when you go to search my podcast in iTunes, RYNO, only 3 podcasts show up, and mine's one of them. So secondarily, after the launch date or the relaunch date, find out why you're the best in the world for this platform. Find out why you're the best in the world for the platform. There's a really good book called The Dip by Seth Godin. Has anyone read it? It's all about how you need to be the best in the world of what you do. And if you don't, then give up and quit. And if you are having a tough time and you want to be the best in the world at this activity or business or a hobby, then you need to double down and fight through the dip. So you stick with it then. So you quit or you stick. So you need to figure out, are you quitting or are you sticking, and how can you be the best in the world of what you do? Define a new category. Define a new category. You can't, the market's so saturated. Find a niche, find a new category. And Jessica asked me, in the comments earlier, what's my bigger vision? You talked about the book was my vision, and then the platform, the podcast, was my day-to-day operation, my platform. So my new category is I'm the only person that can work to teach others how to influence through collaboration. And I believe I am at the penultimate in this. And I say this with full confidence because I know the players here. And I segmented this category so I could define it. I didn't set out to find influence through collaboration. That was a thesis that was told to me. And so now my clients are people that are launching podcasts, launching books, launching tech products that are more personal projects with big ideas to help people monetize their message and build relationships to launch big ideas. And it's amazing. And it's all through collaboration. So think about, there's a good book called Zag. This guy, Marty, I'm sorry, I forget his last name. It's called Zag, Z-A-G. And his advice is find out what you're the onlyest at. Like I'm the only business coach and author who teaches influence through collaboration, right? And I can go specific. I can say I can teach influence through collaboration for podcasting. I'm the only person who can teach influence through collaboration for YouTube, right? So think about the onlyest to find a new category, find your problem you're solving, go out to the customers, get feedback, survey them, do alpha tests, do Skypes, take people to coffee, buy a beer, but don't get too drunk because you want to be cognizant of all this. I was a comedian before, so please laugh at that at home. Anyone not laughing, I won't judge it against you. Put your ego aside, roll your sleeves up, and do the hard work for that platform. So again, we'll have a couple action slides after I present the bigger idea. So the next one is radical collaboration. Radically collaborate. Give now to people. Do webinars. Create a podcast. Write blog posts. Interview influencers. Give a bunch of stuff away. Make introductions. And charge people for stuff later. Because you got to build trust. And you secondarily have to hear people's problems. if you think about the influencer economy and all the collaboration and influence here, imagine running for office, right? Imagine everyone here is running for prime minister of Canada, or does Italy have a prime minister or a president? Wherever you live, find out people's problems, and then you run for office and you say what their problems are, right? I heard that student debt was a problem in Minnesota, and when I'm in campaigning in Minnesota, I say I'm going to help tackle student debt. That's a big problem, right? People want to be heard and they want to be listened to. And then once you get that buy-in, you create the product that solves that need. And you galvanize that bigger community around the projects. And that could be a crowdfunding campaign. Hannah Hart right here. Anyone heard of Hannah Hart? She has a show on YouTube called My Drunk Kitchen. It's a very amazing, cute, adorable show. As you can imagine, she gets drunk in her kitchen with her friends. So she did a crowdfunding campaign where she went on tour in an RV, and for different perks. Who here has done a crowdfunding campaign before? No worries if not. But if you haven't done one, I recommend you support something immediately. But she did a tour around the country, and for different perk levels, you could actually have her come to your kitchen, get drunk, and cook with you. And then she'd make a video for her channel, and she could charge for it. That's amazing. That's a product market fit you never imagined. But she gave so much free video content away. She got to know her audience, and vice versa. She listened to them, and she launched the product together. Radical collaboration is launching the product together. I will be talking about collaboration potentially all day, all night. But yeah, everyone here. Oh, what I meant about crowdfunding, Jessica, is that you have supported a project, not that you've actually made one. So define what you do better than anyone else, right? We just went through this. I'm the only podcaster writing a book on influence and collaboration. And then list out the micro influencers in your category. So literally right now, please make the list of the 15 influencers you look up to in your industry. And let's say you are looking for, you're a fashion company. If you list Kim Kardashian after the slides I just showed you, I will come through the monitor right now and tell you, then take that pen away out of your hand, because you don't go after celebrities. So define what you do. I'm the only person that does X, that does X, that does Y. And then look at the influencers in that segmented niche and write them out, build a roadmap to meet them. And I have a gift at the end that I'll help you potentially reach influencers through. So stick around to the end. But I have a gift that I'll give everyone on the webinar, and helping you to reach some influencers. But ultimately, again, for me, I was like Adam Grant, the business author who teaches at Wharton. He wrote Give and Take. He's my influencer. Nir Ale, he's my influencer. He wrote a book called Hooked, How to Build Habit-Forming Products. Jay Samit, Dory Clark, all these people that write business books and they're consultants and authors. They are my influencers, right? They're not like world famous, Tony Robbins business type people. They are influencers in their specific niche and category. So what I did was I made a list, and there's different roadmaps, but one is cold outreach, right? Pitch a big idea, right? I pitched Seth Godin, one of my heroes. I pitched him cold, right? I found his email online and looked him up, and sent him a thoughtful note. Also leverage your network. Like, do you have connections that know connections? And is that a way to meet influencers? Is there a way to work with an influencer? Is there a way to, and I mean here that you need to find a way to leverage the network, to cold email, and to go to conferences and events. And people are more approachable than you think. Most of us at conferences or dinners have our guards down. So don't pitch people, collaborate with them. Ask them to collaborate. Ask them to say, hey, here's my beta product. Can you take a look at it? Here's my podcast. Do you want to come on it? Can I introduce you to someone else to help your business, right? So find ways to help these influencers build that relationship, and write down 15 of them. So how's everyone doing? I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Is everyone doing okay? Anything I'm not covering here, please leave a comment in the live stream window. I make coffee at home every day. I do half decaf, half regular. So I'm still drinking it right now. Jessica asked, do you think Gary Vaynerchuk is an influencer or a mascot? So that is a very, very divisive question, because Gary Vaynerchuk is He was an influencer online years ago. He has Wine Library TV, and that made a bunch of money for him. He's an investor. He's an advertising executive in New York. But now he's become a talking head, his YouTube series, and I don't think he moves the needle for other people's brands. I think he's more of a mascot. So if anyone here knows Gary Vaynerchuk, I would tell that to his face. I don't want to offend him, but I don't think he moves the needle for other products, and that's what I call a mascot. I think mascots move their own needle, and they move their own product, and they can actually help themselves and their own personal brand. But I don't think Gary's tweets are helping other people raise their profiles. That's just my thought, but he also has a podcast, and he helps elevate others that way. So I'd love to know, what do you think, whoever's listening here? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is an influencer, but I'd have to give it a little bit more thought. So influencers and people that collaborate, often they pilot new ideas. With no defined goals, they enter low barrier entry markets, and they define and lead that new category that we just talked about. So Brad Feld, anyone here heard of him? He's an investor in Techstars and all these accelerators for startups. He's a mentor around the world for entrepreneurs. He is someone that started blogging in 2004 at feld.com, his last name, about startups and technology and entrepreneurship and investing. He's now one of the most well-respected tech bloggers in the world. So I think that he gave me a really good takeaway. He said, when the barrier entry is low, like blogging, podcasting, YouTube creation, building a tech product now, an email list, all these things, they're cheap. They take some time, but you can pilot something and know quickly whether it's going to take off or not. Ebooks, right? You can write an ebook and send it to 5 friends and say, hey, is this good? If it's not good, don't write another paragraph in it or write a new topic. But you can meet friends through collaborating and piloting new ideas. You can meet business partners in the future. How many of you I've met so many friends through my podcast that I now work with, or that I'm actually just friends with, that I hang out with at, I visit their city, and they make connections with me that help my business. So just think about that. Put yourself out there. Don't always have defined goals. Like I talk about the big vision, you got to pitch people, you got to go big with the book. But I didn't have defined goals with my podcast. Of course, it was to, research the book, but I didn't know what I was doing. My first episodes embarrassed me, to tell you the truth. I mean, go back and listen, and they are embarrassing. But I did it. I put myself out there, starting, done. Don't worry about being perfect. Just be done. And was it perfection is the enemy of efficiency? Or there's a famous line about that. So let's talk about piloting your ideas. I recommend you buy domains, you create logos, and you write a blog post about your vision for your product. Go to medium.com. It's like a personal journal for business people. Go to medium.com. It's a great resource. Or just buy a domain and write a blog post on WordPress. Trisha told me perfection is the enemy of good. This is why I crowdsource continually. If you crowdsource, honestly, like a side note, if you crowdsource with 100 people and you get one really big idea out of it, that it was so worth it. So thank you, Trish. Perfection is the enemy of good. So yeah, getting back to writing a blog post. Write a blog post, buy a domain, register a WordPress site, and park it. Even if you don't want to launch that business now, or even if you already launched your business and you don't think you've articulated your vision, just put it out there. Don't show anyone, and wait for the time where you can execute on it if you haven't done it yet. Or if you're rebranding yourself, put your brand vision down and send it out to people to say, I'm redoing my product, get to know me better. And ultimately, validate that blog post. Like, validate it in 3 ways. Like, why is that blog post important to me? Because I got influencer.com, the domain, like 5-6 years ago. I didn't write the book until this summer is when I published it. But I knew I had crazy jobs where I couldn't write a book or start a podcast, and I was very intense with my business. So think about how you can validate yourself and write that post. And I knew that I parked that blog post for years. So then ultimately, now I have my podcast, and I keep harping on this. Validate your ideas with reasons that you believe in. So why am I the best for the influencer book and podcast? I'm a stand-up comedian. I love audiences. I have a power network of a Machinima Gamer guest. I wrote the book, and I needed to research influencers like Seth Godin, and that was my platform. And then ultimately, collab. Who here knows what a collaboration is in YouTube? A collaboration in YouTube is when let's say Jessica and Trish are YouTubers. So Jessica's a YouTuber with 100,000 subscribers, pretty good channel around business tech, and it's very big and broad. Let's say Trish has a channel and it's on the shoe industry and has 100. Let's say it has 100 subscribers. Let's say it has 5,000. She's pretty good. So they do a collaboration where Jessica is in Trish's video, Trish is in Jessica's video. So Jessica's got mass reach, right? So Trish coming on that show, her subscribers could go from 5,000 to 7,000 to 10,000, right? She'll get new subscribers, become more broad in the category. But Jessica goes on Trish's show, even though Jessica's more well established, because she can help Jessica, she can mentor her, she can make her, she can help Trish mentor her, make her business better. But ultimately, she can target in a niche and become more of an authority in that niche. So when you collaborate with influencers, don't ever underestimate the power of your niche. Seth Godin came on my podcast and said, he said, Ryan, we are doing this really well together. We are doing this together. And he said, even if you have 5,000 podcast listens an episode, that is a tribe. So don't discount yourself to collaborate with the influencers, but give value, add something, make something, build it together and collaborate. So these guys are called the Vlog Brothers. Anyone here heard of the Vlog Brothers? They started a conference called VidCon. It's a YouTube conference down in Anaheim that happens every year. It's the video industry of Snapchat creators and advertisers and YouTubers and all these talent managers and Hollywood all coming together to like make money and build community for each other. So these guys have a video here, how to be a nerd fighter with their geeky, I guess those are Vulcan death grips. So they named their community the Nerd Fighters, right? Think about Googlers. Think about YouTubers, right? Googlers are the people that work at Google. YouTubers are the people that make the YouTube videos that are like the Vlog Brothers and Hannah Hart. And think about naming that community. Like I call my community the influencers because that's what everyone is in my community. You are an influencer because you've opted in to influence through collaboration. And to think about that smaller project to reach the customer, to validate your idea. And I love this line, don't forget to be awesome. So the Vlog Brothers made that comment. That's a catchphrase of theirs because you can't forget to be awesome. That's so funny, right? Because that's so memorable. They're assuming you're already awesome and they want a gentle nudge, a reminder that you're awesome. And I think that branding for customers is so important. Think about all the catchphrases, you know. Authenticity really does come down to a strong message. So once with the customer, how we identify it, I'm taking another sip of coffee, so feel free to take a coffee break. How's everyone doing in the chat? Let me know. Give me a smiley face if you're doing okay, emoji style, or a thumbs up. Simon, I'm talking to you. So your micro community comes with your customer base once you've established some track record. So find the people that love what you do. They love what you do. Okay, we're getting some smiley faces. So we're alive here. We're alive here. Jessica, Dan, Trish, everyone is smiling. What about the Italians that are in the room? Oh, Christina. Okay. We got global smiley emoticons from Canada, Italy to California. This is wonderful. This has made my day. So, and I actually have had a good day so far. So it's saying something. The three types of customers who love what you do, they are your micro community. So for me, it was the person who hates their day job with a side project. This is my micro community that I learned through surveying, through doing webinars, through doing email conversations, through meeting people at my book tour, meeting people at Google. I offer to give advice to people sometimes. Anyway, so I've done a lot. Like you just don't learn this. Like you don't learn this. You have to be active. You have to lean into it. So the person who hates their day job is the first type of my micro community member. The second are entrepreneurs, people who work at companies looking for new insights into like an edge at their company. And people who are launching products at their companies, right? So they could be a big company or a small company. They want to collaborate to launch that product with influence. So I make products with that group. I have to make that my goal. I won't exist as a business person or someone who leads this learning that I like to share with others and instruct people how to do for themselves. But I chat with them. I Skype. I survey. There's people here on this webinar that I've emailed with, that I've worked with, that I've Skyped with, right? And the only reason I know their problems is because they told me and I've heard them. Again, everyone who has a product is running for office. You need to treat it like you're running for governor of your state or of your province or wherever you live, because you have to find people's problems out, and then tell them you solve I want to solve that problem. I have an alternative. I have a solution for you to solve that problem, and then build a product to do it. And that's the hard part, right? But you reward these people with inclusion to make them feel part of your community and a customer base where they want to share with others and market your product. So I'll share a quick story. I gave my book out for free to my friends or people on my email list. This is probably a year ago. It wasn't done yet. I used a Google Doc, and I said, here's my email, here's my Google Doc. And I asked people for feedback. I said, if you make a recommendation for the book, I'll give you a title of editor in my book, right? So my wife's like, this is a stupid idea, Ryan. I mean, my wife, that's not the first time she has said that, but, and she's been right before. But she said, this is a stupid idea. You want to make money from your book. You want to make money from your book. Why would you give it out for free? And I gave it out for free because I want to make the book better. I actually pivoted my idea, and I made a little bit of new actions and lessons at certain chapters of the book. So the feedback made the product better, right? It was like a beta. I gave it out to people. So I have 50 crowd editors in my book, and they're all my people from my email list. Some of them I've never met in my life. Other people are, friends. But what happened was we have built a relationship. So these people that I crowd edited with, okay, so someone said it was frozen. So sorry, I waited for a second. It looks like if you just refresh everything, then it unfreezes. So I'm gonna write that real quick. We want the people. This is about the people. The people need to see this, and I want them to see it. I want you to see it. I want you to tell me what you think. So, a side note, I launched the book, and my wife was wrong. I launched the book, and the first people to buy the book on Amazon were my crowd editors because they wanted to support me. They were the first people to leave Amazon reviews because they wanted to support me. So you let people in with inclusion, and two things happen. I'll say this one more time. They make your product better, which is the main goal, right? You want your product to be better. But equally, they become your top marketers and your salespeople because they're invested emotionally. So I mentioned before, think like a crowdfunder, which means you want to message people continually saying, hey, I'm here to solve your needs. My product is late, but I still love you. And addressing people's problem that you're building something great for them. And so ultimately, tech solutions for your idea are important. And crowdfunding is awesome because of the emails, right? If you supported a crowdfunding product, you know that the emails are like with love, and people really are into it because they know what you're doing. They see you make the product. They see you bake the goods. So acquire emails. Everyone listening to this, acquire emails on your list right now. Be curious around new technology and give people perks. Freddie Wong here. Anyone here know Freddie Wong? He's a YouTuber. He did a series called Video Game High School, which is like a Harry Potter for video games. So people in the future are at video game academies, and they're helping to fight and save the world. And it's amazing. So it's been seen 1 billion times online. That's incredible, right? He did a crowdfunding campaign. He raised $3 million he raised $2 million for 3 products launches for Video Game High School for each season. And one perk he did was if you paid $5,000, he would take you to Disney World. And he would take you to Disney with the cast and crew. Steven Spielberg would never do that. Quentin Tarantino would hate that. Spike Lee would never do that, right? So filmmakers never would go to Disney, but Freddie's on your laptop. He's on your mobile device, on your iPhone. He has that perk, right? So I think another perk he did for $3,000 was anywhere in the country where you lived, he'd bring you French dough or donuts to your front door. And he would, for $3,000, meet you and hang out for an hour. Amazing, right? So personal. So perks, give away stuff, make people happy, find their problems, solve it, give them joy, make them learn, make them smarter, and use tech. And everyone make an email acquisition button immediately on your website. Emails are gold. So for you, the perks could be a freebie. My perk is you sign up for my list, and I give you the Influencer Economy Action Workbook. It's 100 actions and lessons directly from my Influencer Economy book to help you launch your business, right? And collaborate with influence. So that's where I recommend, emails, give them something in return, give them a perk. Your perk could be different. Your perk may not even be knowledge or an info product. It could be join my alpha for my new product release, or pilot, get a free week of my online course. So find out what your perks are, give them away as a freebie. Email, adopt technology, treat your community like a crowdfunding campaign. Just give them an update every week, and use AppSumo or Lead Pages to actually get the buttons up, and build an email flow through MailChimp. This is really underrated. It's so hard doing a weekly email. And those of you that are on my email list, you may notice that every week I send you a new email, regardless if it's new or not. So I built up a flow, I think it's for 5 or 6 weeks, that everyone who signs up new gets an email. And that makes me do a lot of things. One is it helps relieve the pressure if I don't have an email that week to know people are still getting content. 2, it really helps me to connect with people and tell my story and really find a groove where people can interact with me. And I can learn more, and they can learn more about me. And then finally, it just is a solution for tech that I'm repurposing all my content. So ultimately, I have great blog posts that I want to share with people, and that is what the email flow does for me. So I can help out anyone, afterwards if you want to learn more about that. So we have a couple more slides left around, the principles here, but giving to others, being a giver, treating your community and customers like equals, and elevating your community is so important. So I wrote this book, The Influencer Economy, and then I had a blog post that I wrote a couple years before called Why Helping People and Expecting Nothing in Return is the Best Business Model for Life. And it's really a POV I believe in. And again, I wrote this on medium.com. I just went up there. It's a personal journal story. Took an image that you see here, the purple thing with, has a filter on it. That's my friends and I at South by Southwest. You can't really see it that well. South by Southwest is a big tech conference in Texas. So I had this blog post. It's my POV. It made its way to Adam Grant, who endorsed my book. He's a Wharton professor, one of my key influencers. And he said, "Oh, Ryan, my research validates your whole presupposition here. This is like a Wharton professor at UPenn, massive influencer, and he's saying my point of view is validated by his work." After a couple emails, he came on my podcast. I kept in touch with him. That's important, right? I didn't waste his time, but I kept in touch with him. So I wrote him, I sent him, a podcast went up and I posted it, which he appreciated, because I, helped him promote his book, Give and Take. I talk about his book, Give and Take, all the time. And ultimately, Adam wrote a book endorsement for me because I kept in touch with him for 2 years. And all that was through a random email introduction because someone read my blog post. So ultimately, give to others with your own self-interest aligned. That is the moral of everything I talk about. I'm sorry. POV is point of view. Sorry. Thank you, America Care Helper. POV is point of view. A point of view is your point of view in the business world. So if you want to write blog posts, my whole thing was help others and act, and don't ask for things in return. Don't be a ankle biter or taker. Be a giver and help others. So ultimately, that's what I did. That's what I recommend you do. You don't have to even launch your product yet or talk about what you're building, but get the word out there for what you stand for in an authentic way that can be passed around and shared with others. Because then great things could happen, and that's a great outlet to reach influencers, for them to say, "Hey, oh, I get this guy, or I get this gal, I get this person, and that's someone I want to collaborate with." So think about ways to make introductions. This is be a giver, treat your customers as equals, but make introductions. Like I said before, I have a friend who's a big business podcaster, and he's a guy named John Corcoran. He has a show called The Smart Business Revolution. His mantra that he talks about is how to connect with others is with intros. So he actually has reminders in his calendar to introduce people. Oh, I haven't talked to so-and-so in a while. I'm going to make an introduction. And that is a great way to add to your connective equity with others, right? Your networking ability to help make intros. You can make lunches, dinners, webinars are a great way to connect to others. You do webinars for other people's email lists, and then they'll do a webinar for your community. But I'll tell you something real quick for my podcast. Anyone here know AppSumo, which I mentioned before? They make a lot of tech products for small businesses. So Noah Kagan is a really fascinating guy. He talks about depression in his business and in his company, and it's really, really smart dude. I interviewed for a job at his company. He turned me down, and he didn't hire me. But I sent him my book, right? So I sent him my book just as a thought, like it's a business card. And then I invited him on my podcast and he ignored me. So then 6 months later, a friend of mine wanted to get featured on AppSumo so they would promote this tech product. And it's like it's like an email list. It's like a living social for tech products and tech solutions. So I emailed Noah like, hey, my friend just submitted to AppSumo. What do you think? And he's like, oh, I saw that. That's a smart idea. Hey, by the way, Ryan, I just launched a podcast. Can I come on yours to talk about it? Which is incredible, right? Because I didn't even have to ask him, but I kept the relationship warm. I even got rejected from him, right? Because I didn't get the job. And ultimately, he rejected me again. I didn't realize that, actually. He rejected me again by ignoring my podcast request. So all that said, just launch your influencer outreach plan as soon as you think you have something of value to offer and help make introductions to people. So one element of influence is really, are you going to double down or are you going to pivot? So this guy is Troy Carter. He's a business music executive in Los Angeles. He works at Spotify now, the music streaming company. And he used to manage Lady Gaga. So he told me you need to develop a personal internal gauge that tells you when it's time to pivot. So Troy Carter is a brilliant guy because he ended up leaving Lady Gaga. He could have gotten fired, but either way, it was like a very just sudden departure. And he then now works at Spotify, right? He moved on. Like there's something about moving on when things don't work for you anymore. And if you know the history of Twitter, then you may remember that they were originally a podcasting platform, but they pivoted because the market told them that's not what they wanted. And Instagrams, sold for nearly $1 billion to Facebook. They were originally a different product. They were a check-in app to tell people your location, like Foursquare, if you've used that. How many people use Instagram now? Everyone does, right? But the original app gained no traction. So pivoting is not just about where you are in your life or your career, but it's about your product and the services and the business that you take. Like my career is pivoted. I went from working for venture-backed startups that were raising millions of dollars, but I was tired of getting ousted and leveraged by my CEOs. Like I had people try to steal stock from me. I've had crazy stories about people trying to screw me over in the tech industry. And ultimately, that's where I pivoted my career because I was so burned out on it. I'd done it for 7 years. And I've been leveraged, and it was really exhausting. So know your internal gauge. Know when it's time to pivot. And think about it. He made a lot of money with Gaga, and then he became the Spotify head of global partnerships. He now invests in Uber and Lyft and Dropbox and all these companies because he knows that when it's time to move on to something bigger and better, or because you're failing and you want to, up your game. So yeah, we're going to talk about here, you got to listen to your customers and you got to kill 90% of your ideas that aren't working. There's a book called Making Ideas Happen by Scott Belsky. He's a guy that started a company called Behance and then it got acquired by Adobe. It's like a designer's marketplace for finding design gigs. And Scott Belsky is, he's an author. I had him on my show early on. He said there's often dreamers and there's doers in companies. And the dreamer is the big visionary and the big idea person. And the doer is the person that has to kill 90% of the ideas because you can't do it all. And ultimately, you have to be your own idea killer. You have to have the self-awareness to know this isn't working, right? It doesn't move the needle. It's not good for your bottom line. So I recommend everyone right now, create a mission statement for your business and stick to it and honor that mission. If I don't have a podcast or a webinar or any of my business that's not influenced through collaboration, then it's not the right job for me. It's not the right episode or the right book. Influence through collaboration, right? So think about your mission, write it out, stick to it, and listen to the customer because they'll tell you what the market says. My podcast was originally about makers, creators, and entrepreneurs telling their stories, right? Then I realized, no, people need more action. They weren't getting enough value out of it. They weren't learning enough. They didn't care about this YouTuber's background for how they started their career. They want to know how the YouTuber launched their network and built their company and actually monetized their YouTube videos where they got speaking gigs or they were, keynoting conferences or they were starring in movies. Like that's what's fascinating. And I didn't realize that, but I listened to the customer and that's how my business really transformed because I could teach this to others. So this is the part where I talk about kind of like what I've built this theory around, and it's practical advice and it's practical strategy, because this isn't theory. This is a step-by-step playbook for how I quickly built my platform. And it's a formulaic system you can immediately implement if you have ideas, a vision, or if you're just spinning your wheels and you want to reinvent yourself or pivot your career. So I use the same system to build my vision, build a platform and a community, launch my new company, write my new resume, collaborate with key influencers to build my own opportunities to book my own speaking tour this summer. Like I spoke at Google last week. Google only invited me because I booked a tour this summer and went from Raleigh-Durham to Ottawa, Canada to San Francisco. I didn't get paid for the San Francisco tour, for the DC tour, for the New York tour, but I booked my gigs at a place called General Assembly. They gave me a free venue and they had an email list of tech entrepreneurs that they reached out to. But I had a podcast and a community and people in different cities that wanted to see me. And moreover, I wanted to make a speaking reel. So I had to do gigs to make my reel that I then sent to Google, where it validated me as an author that could talk. And now I have that on YouTube on their channel, which is going to be a big opportunity. And now I have all these other business opportunities because I did all that on my own. So this is my system. And the mindset really is about achieving the freedom you always want to hear. And I'd be curious, what is your definition of wealth? I didn't put this on the slide deck, but I've been thinking more about wealth recently. I don't think it's about making a ton of money. I think it's more about freedom and having choices. And it's really calling your own shots. It is about writing your own check, but it's really about, calling your own shots to, like, if you want to pick your kids up at school at 4 p.m., you have that option because of the job, right? And that's not always baked into your work. But if you can do that, that's more freedom than rich. So I think it's all about your definition. But yeah, it's about getting rid of the insecurity, feeling like a fraud, suffering from imposter syndrome, where you don't think it's good enough for you, and gaining confidence to get your message to the world in a big way to change lives. Because I'm not sure why you're here. It could be because, like I was, you're fed up with making other people rich, like my startup founders that had Ferrari engines in their Audis. Well, I got a $5,000 raise after we sold our company to Disney. It's a true story. I'm not angry about it, but it's just part of, the learning curve. And maybe you have a vision or a mission and you want to start an online business. It could be because you've been struggling to launch a new idea. You want to execute. And for me, it's like you're starting a family. You want more freedom and time to do the things that you love. So this is where I talk to you about my product. I will be authentic and real here. This is a coaching and influence program that I'm launching, and I have a spot left for someone, and it's Influence School. It's a fast way to gain influence, grow a customer base, and build your platform to collaborate with influencers to help you avoid spinning your wheels, struggling to generate leads, or build powerful relationships. Because it's all about gaining that influence through collaboration with influencers. And it's going to be helping you launch your business in 30 days. That's the thesis. We can adapt this because we want to find your bigger brand vision, want to help you build your community, to galvanize your base, to collab with influencers like I talked to you about earlier with the collab method, with anything that works. Generate business leads and influence through collaboration. The onlyest, right? The only program that helps people with influence through collaboration. So it's 5 weeks long, and it's a weekly group coaching chat. So we have people from Canada actually to LA, and we'll do a weekly chat. We'll do one-on-one calls separately. We'll do Q&As with other students, and it's launching this spring. I don't know why I put 2016. That's really, I guess everything's blurring together. I just had my second kid. I had 2 kids under 3.5. So maybe my dates do blur together now. But yeah, it's gonna be 5 weeks, be coaching calls, group chats, accountability, be a video as well as PDF formats. It's one-on-one. And this is my pilot program, right? It's my first pilot program. It's going to be $497, so $500. And the full-blown program is going to be $1,500. So why it's going to be this price is I want feedback on it as much as I want to help you. So you're going to help me through this private network, and you're going to help me. Thank you, Jessica, for the baby. I had a baby. I have 2 young kids. So that's why, that's really one of the catalysts for changing my business, was to be with them more. So do Q&As, unlimited email support, but it's going to be $500 for the pilot, and then it's going to be $1,500 or more at launch, because I want to make this program really good and prove out my concept. And this is getting back to the influencer economy and, piloting my ideas. Like, this is something that I want to validate with my collaborators. You're in my 10% if you join this program. And then the influencers would be something I would do with other people to go on their webinars to help spread the course. And then finally making this mainstream, but the collaborators are key. So thank you if anyone's interested. And I can show you how I've done. And would you be interested in me helping you? And it's a step-by-step, it's a mentoring program. And we'll lead you through the process. So here are a couple testimonials. I mentioned Near Ale and Ryan Ford, who works with Snoop Dogg earlier. But yeah, I talked to Julie Buckwild. Says Ryan's program is efficient, well tailored to meet individual plans and objectives as far as taking the next step with an idea or evolving it to the next level. Ryan helps people achieve their dreams. And this is a really nice, I actually didn't read this fully. This is really nice. I should edit this down. This is a long testimonial. He's a track record of achieving his own dreams to back up his approach. With the group dynamic, I felt a sense of renewed energy from other entrepreneurial type people, all of whom were just starting out with their own business concepts, ideas, and exploring new avenues. Welcome, Flynn. Good to see you, Flynn. I met you at the General Assembly event, right? Ryan's program kept me laser focused. Thank you, Dan. Take it easy. And to have an overall vision of my business. And these are just testimonials. So these are really, what I'm saying is over the 6 to 12 months, we can really start something new. And I discovered a perfect path to help you get what you want, implement and fine tune my strategies. It's something simple that you can follow, even if you're getting started without the guesswork. So I can see amazing things happening for you. But ultimately, the gift I mentioned earlier is I want to give you all a template book for how to collaborate with influencers. It's in the next 24 hours. If you email me, I will give you a template. They are going to be tweets and emails for cold outreach to reach your influencers. And if you want this in 24 hours, I will give you feedback on your strategy to reach influencers. No questions asked, free, and email me in the next 24 hours because I want to help you reach influencers cold. And that's really what we're all about here. So ultimately, again, my podcast, we talk about mental health, depression, entrepreneurship, and how to reach your next opportunity, which is why it's called the Rhino Lab. And then again, launching the course, it'd be $500 or $497 with the pilot program, and then $1,497, so $1,500 or more when it gets fully baked. I'm looking for feedback to collaborate with you all to help make this amazing product, and then also, most importantly, helping you to really jumpstart whatever you're working on. And it could be a course, it could be a tech product, it could be a coaching business, it could be you work at a company and you want to kind of launch something and build value. So ultimately, these are the modules, which I'm happy to share with you afterwards. But yeah, I wanted to tell you that this is the webinar, how to collaborate with influencers. And let's do a quick Q&A. Ask me anything. I'll be sticking around for a couple minutes. So please leave a comment. Jessica says, I want it. She asked me if I'm coming to Waterloo, Ontario. I'd love to go back to Canada. I went to Ottawa, Jessica, this past year, actually last fall. I headlined a conference called TyCon, and they bought a bunch of books. And so if you can find a conference for entrepreneurs or influencers, advertising, marketing executives, a company that can help me pay my way and pay a speaking fee and buy books, then I'd love to come. It's really hard to validate going up to Canada unless there's a package involved. So yeah, Flynn or anyone, Simon, any questions? Trish, AmeriCare Helper, Christina, the Italians coming in strong. Super psyched about those folks because love reaching international, across the ocean influencers. And the 4-week MBA, of course, Gennaro from WordLift. So yeah, I'll stick around for a couple minutes. If you don't have any questions, you can feel free. Okay, we got some suggestions from Jessica. And then feel free to email me in the next 24 hours if you want that booklet that is a template of how to reach influencers through cold outreach, which is Twitter and cold emails. So yeah, thank you all so much. And look forward to collaborating with y'all in the future. And we will do this another one next month. If you're interested, having ideas for future webinars, hit me up as well. Thank you all. Have a great day, night, evening, wherever you may be. Oh yeah, I do mention at the end of my podcast, I talk about, you may have heard, heading over to Duke's Zebert's for some chicken in the pot. It's a long story, but I used to be friends with Larry King as a kid, and he used to say that in his radio show. So I'll tell that on a different podcast episode. But yeah, heading over to Zebert's for some chicken in the pot. And thank you so much for joining me. Later.